Do you find yourself looking at others and perhaps unconsciously or perhaps deliberately doing what they do? Perhaps you see someone yawn and not long after you end up yawning yourself. This is a form of imitation. But why do we imitate? Who do we imitate? How can we use our imitation to our advantage? As the saying goes, imitation is a form of flattery, and that's exactly what we'll talk about in this video. Before we dive into the power of imitation, I appreciate it if you would like this video as it shares it out to more people, and subscribe to this channel as I will continue to help you feed you nuggets of gold related to boosting your brain and behavior. So yes, imitation is a powerful tool. A lot of us may do it without thought, but it's time to switch that mindset around and use it more strategically and consciously. From how we talk, how we walk, and carry ourselves, we imitate with people all around us. It's how we learn new skills, whether it's imitating our favorite musician to imitating the way certain words are pronounced in a language we're beginning to learn. Using imitation to our advantage can and will help you develop faster. As mentioned earlier, since the days we were born, we imitate our surroundings. Children learn by observing the adults in their lives. Employees imitate the CEO, and perhaps you could say content consumers imitate their favorite content creators. This idea of copying is in everything: mannerisms, speech patterns, reactions, responses, and even appearances. But knowing exactly that, this is why they say lead by example, whether you're a parent to a child or a mentor to another person. Now, we might think that as we get older, shaping our own personalities and beliefs, imitation dies out, but it still exists. It's just a bit more subtle. For example, even when we start a new job, we watch and learn from other colleagues or managers that guide us. If we're learning something new, like a language, we imitate locals in the way we say the words, enunciate, or more. When we try to improve in our career or field of expertise, we watch and learn from those that came before us. Besides learning, imitation also helps ignite creativity. When we see others doing something amazing, we feel inspired and choose to imitate their ways to create. But also, imitation plays its role in social connections as well, as we use it to build relationships and mirror others to trigger a sense of relational bonding. So what is the social role of imitation? Whether it's communication, interaction, or the formation of friendships, relationships, and more, understanding how imitation operates within social contexts can give us a better understanding of the underlying dynamic of social norms and behaviors. When we imitate, we can have a greater chance of lowering the defenses of others and establish connectivity within communities. People relate to those with similar interests, beliefs, and behaviors. So when we imitate the communication styles, behaviors, and gestures of others, we build rapport and thus strengthen interpersonal connections. It's one of the reasons why people who tend to have similar experiences of an event of some sort can immediately feel closer to one another. There's some sort of social cohesion that happens with imitation. Then there's socialization. Through imitation, we also learn how to socialize. We first learn this from our closest social group, the family. Then as we move through school and then work, life, we begin to learn to navigate social interactions, social etiquette, and communication with the people around us. We witness what is frowned upon and avoid behaving that way. We see what makes people laugh and perhaps try to adopt that sense of humor. This adaptive process of imitation for socialization is what helps us integrate into a social environment. And then there's the reason for a group in conformity. When we become part of a larger group greater than our individual selves, we use imitation to keep the harmony within the group, conforming to the social norms. We all want to be socially accepted, a concept spoken about in another video on social desirability bias. So sometimes we shape our beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors to fit that overall dynamic of that larger social group. And finally, we imitate to develop empathy. As individuals imitate the emotional expressions and responses of others, we too feel as they feel. In fact, there are several studies that suggest that even just forcing a smile for a few minutes a day can actually trick your brain into being happy. Seeing others smile and laugh can do the same, like a contagious virus spreading throughout. So when we imitate emotion, this fosters empathy and promotes a sense of mutual understanding. But what exactly is happening to us when we do imitate? Well, one explanation can come from what is called mirror neurons. First discovered in the 1990s by a group of Italian researchers led by Dr. Giacomo Rizzolatti at the University of Parma, Italy, mirror neurons gives explanation to human behavior and social cognition. Simply put, they are a type of neurons in our brain that shoot out when we act or observe the same action from another person. When you watch someone else doing something, such as smiling or laughing, the mirror neurons do the same thing inside our brain. and it makes us feel as if we want to do it. As the name heavily implies, the neuron is mirroring the behavior observed, and since it triggers inside of us, our body feels like doing the same. So in a way, our brains are literally trying to get us to imitate others. These neurons have been discovered in multiple parts of the brain, from the premotor cortex, supplementary motor area, primary somatosensory cortex, amygdala, and more. It's also been found that mirror neurons play a key role in understanding others, empathy, and imitative learning. So while all of this information is great to know, going back to what was said at the start of the video, besides unconsciously imitating, how can we deliberately imitate to learn better? Well, when we are choosing to imitate, take note of these 5 key steps to ensure we're imitating correctly. For one, observe. Pay attention to the behavior, communication style, or action you want to imitate. If it's a technique for a sport or even a manner of speech, watch carefully at the role model or expert and see what they do. Then, focus. Once you've watched and observed for a bit, the second step here is to focus on the details. While you may be wondering how is this any different from the first step, the key thing here is to really hone in on the specifics. Closely concentrate on the sequence of actions taken, the wave of sounds made, and perhaps try to understand the underlying reasoning behind each step. This step is great for external input. The third step is replicate. After you've learned about what is done and how it might be performed, begin to replicate that very behavior. This is where you practice, practice, and practice. No great person became the way they did without practice. Then the fourth step is to iterate. While the step can technically be mixed into replicate, you need to ensure you seek and receive feedback to ensure you're practicing it right. Adjust your behaviors based on the constructive commentary and feedback you receive and align with a desired outcome. And finally, while this isn't so much of a step but just a requisite to get something really settled in, make sure to persist in practice. Mastering any skill into normal behavior takes time and consistency to do the work. Persistence and consistency is key to effectively learning anything, and if you want to imitate the behaviors of the best, it requires more than just a few observations and practice to get there. While this video was a little bit of a short one, if you did enjoy learning about how we can use imitation in our lives, make sure to like this video as I'll spread it around to more people, and be sure to subscribe to this channel so I can continue to help you mine the golden light.